This conference will now be recorded.
Now, so now we'll see the one more additional feature as part of this integration, that is future callouts. So how can we use this future callouts inside your Salesforce instance? We'll see practically in this case. Now, then what exactly the future callouts? What is the use? And how can we implement the future callouts? We'll see practically in this case. Now let's see practically in this case. You know the concept of future methods. You know the concept of future methods. Through these future methods also we can able to invoke the callouts. Okay. Through these future methods also we can invoke the callouts which are called as future callouts. Okay, which are called as future callouts. That means what? We can invoke a third-party web service. That means we are going to be calling a outside web service, okay, through with the help of future methods. So previously, during that asynchronous programming, we have discussed about the 5 asynchronous programming features, like as the batch programming, second one, schedule programming, third one, flex queues, fourth one, future methods, fifth one, we are having that the queuable interface or queuable apex. So during the time, you know the complete concept of future methods, how to implement the future methods. Now, through these future methods, how can we invoke the callouts as well? Generally, whenever if you are defining a method as a future method, which will be running by placing inside that Salesforce queue, based on the availability of the Salesforce resources, we are defining that method with the help of an annotation called as @future annotation. We're defining the method with the help of an annotation @future annotation, where this method will not be executing immediately. This method will be executing based on the availability of the Salesforce resources. Till the Salesforce resources becomes available, till that time, this method will be getting placed inside that apex queue. The method will be placing inside the apex queue, and from there, depends upon the availability of the Salesforce resources, the method will be collecting from the queue. It will be executing automatically. It will store the response back over here. So in this case, we are going to be executing the functionality by placing inside the Salesforce queue with the help of future methods. Now, in this future method also, we can able to invoke a callout. That means callout means what? Invoking the third-party web service. Invoking the third-party web service is called as callout. Now, then how can we use these feature callouts? We'll see practically in this case. Now, so now let's see in this case. Now, how can we invoke these callouts? Now let me explain. I will give you one scenario, a real-time scenario. How can we use this future callout? Okay. Now, let me explain practically in this case. How can we implement this scenario? We'll see. Here also I would like to use OAuth authentication. Here also I would like to use OAuth authentication. Now, so now let's verify here. Let me explain the scenario first, then we'll see the practical implementation part. Okay, this is the last scenario as part of integrations. Now, so now especially the people are going to be concentrating on REST implementation, preparing the services also and then consuming the services also, both. Okay, we have implemented. We have exposed our own web services to the third-party people, and then we have consumed the third-party web services also. Now, in this case, now let me explain this scenario here, use case first, so that you can understand what exactly the requirement. For example, assume that I have an organization. There is a provider organization. Assume that I'm having a provider organization. There is a service provider. Provider or server. I'm having an organization with the name which is a service provider or server. Now, in this case, inside this provider, we are having an object. I have an object with the name some hiring manager. There is an object with the name hiring manager. So this is an object that we have with the name hiring manager. Hiring manager underscore underscore C. This is object. I'm having the hiring manager object. It may be different object also, whatever, anything. I'm not bothered. Now, inside this hiring manager object, I'm having some set of fields like the ID field, the name field, phone field, and the location field. These are the fields are available. Inside my hiring manager object, I'm having some set of fields. Like the ID field, and the name field, and the location field, and the phone field. These are the fields are available inside my hiring manager object. Now, inside this service provider, okay, inside this service provider, they're having a web service also. Okay, they have a web service. They have a web service. They have prepared a web service also. They have prepared a web service. They have prepared a web service. So what this web service will do, this web service is going to be receiving the hiring manager field values. So now it is collecting the name of the hiring manager, location value, phone value. Once the values have been getting collected, then it is going to be inserting the record into the subject here. It will insert the record into the subject here. Once the values have been getting collected, it is going to be inserting the record into your object. So I have a web service, okay, inside my provider. Okay, inside my provider, I have a web service. Now, this web service will be receiving the hiring manager record values. Now, based on that values, it is inserting the record inside my hiring manager object. It is going to be inserting the record inside my hiring manager object. Now, so that when coming to my web service is going to be collecting the record information. It will collect the record information and then it is inserting the record inside this object. Once a record has been inserted, it will be collecting the response back, nothing but ID value. It will collect the ID value back. This ID will be returning to you for your confirmation. Dear customer, your HR record has been inserted successfully. So this is the web service which I have implemented. Assume that this web service is having some specific URL. Every web service will be having a specific URL is available, right? So now here I'm indicating the URL for my web service. My web service is available in the form of this URL like this. This is the URL that we have. I'm having the URL like this. HTTPS ap17.salesforce.com/services/apex suggest/hiring manager service. Assume that this is the service name. This is the web service URL that we have. Now, this web service is going to be receiving the hiring manager record details. Based on the details, it is going to be inserting the record inside my hiring manager object. And then it has to be giving the response back. It will be giving the response back. This is the functionality. Now, in this case here, okay, now here in this case, now I'm having the provider. So now the provider is going to be having a web service. So now this web service will be accessible by using this endpoint URL. This is the endpoint URL of my web service. Now this web service is going to be expecting some input values. It is expecting the hiring manager name, location, phone. These are the three fields it is expecting. Whenever I'm passing these three values to my web service, the web service will collect these three input values. With that three input values, it is creating a new hiring manager record. It is sending the response back to me. That means it is returning that ID back to me. So the ID which has been generated by Salesforce upon creating this HR record. So based on that, I will get the confirmation. Now, so in this case here, now I would like to utilize this web service. I would like to invoke the web service. When now, for example, here I'm having a consumer. I'm having a consumer organization right now. Here I'm having a consumer organization. So this is the consumer organization here. I'm indicating. This is the service consumer or client. I'm having this service consumer or the client. I'm having this client right now. So this is the service consumer or the client. Now here I'm having a record. I'm having an object. Inside my consumer, I'm having an object. I'm having an object. With the same details, I'm having an object. Exactly with the same structure. Exactly with the same structure, I'm having an object. So he is the hiring manager object. I'm having this hiring manager object. Now, in this case, today, for example, I'm creating a hiring manager record inside my client. Inside my client organization, I'm creating a hiring manager record. Like for example, I'm creating a record inside my hiring manager object. I'm creating a record inside my hiring manager object. So whenever I'm creating the record, I'm giving the name, location, and the phone number value. Then ID will be generating by Salesforce automatically. Like for example, ID is some A023344. Name I'm indicating as some Ram or some Ramesh. Location some Mumbai. Phone number some value. So whenever I'm entering some data, as soon as whenever a new hiring manager record has been created inside my consumer, immediately what I want to do is, immediately this data I want to pass to my web service. Now the web service will receive this data. It has to create the record inside the hiring manager object inside the provider. That means what I want to synchronize. This is one Salesforce organization. This is another Salesforce organization. I want to provide the synchronization over here immediately. Immediately, I would like to synchronize the data. That means whenever I'm creating a Salesforce account, whenever I'm creating a hiring manager record inside my account, inside my organization's hiring manager object, immediately it has to call the Shiva's account. For example, assume that this organization belongs to the Salesforce account belongs to Shiva. So now in this case, Shiva has implemented a web service. So now that web service is expecting some name value, location value, phone number value. So now immediately whenever I'm creating a new record inside my client, inside my consumer, immediately I want to pass this value to the service provider, nothing but Shiva's web service. The Shiva's web service will receive these three values. It has to create a record inside this object as well. That means what? I want to provide the communication between these two accounts over here. Two Salesforce accounts can communicate in order to synchronize the data. Then how can we synchronize the data over here? Now tell me your approach, how can we implement this one? As soon as whenever the record has been created inside my client, immediately I want to pass this data to my provider. So then what we can do? Give me your approach, your solution. Then we'll see how to implement that. Tell me your solution. What is your approach? Anyone? Guess. Think about the solution. Suppose if you got this kind of requirement in the implementation, what you will do? This web service directly I can't access. This web service we can't access directly because there is an authorization server. There is an authorization server is available over here. This web service you can't access directly. There is an authorization server is also available in between. We are having an authorization server. We have an authorization server. We have an authorization server, which is purely interacting with my actual resources server. It is keep on interacting with the resource server. Now tell me your approach. How to implement the solution? See, the similar kind of concept is available in the real-time implementations also. Okay, when coming to your banking systems. Now in this case, what we can do? How can we implement? When you go to the banking systems, for example, assume that I'm having a bank. Okay, assume that this is the bank server. Okay, so this is the bank server. This is the bank branch. Assume that this is another bank branch. So now I'm having a ICICI bank account in a Sarnagar branch. So they're maintaining a table in order to store the account information, all the customer details, their balance information, everything. They're going to be using some web services also. Assume that today I went to the client, nothing but an ATM center. There is a cash deposit machine is available nearby my place. I went to that ATM center over here. Okay, that means in that one there is a cash deposit which is available. Here I have deposited the money. Here I have deposited the money. Whenever the money has been deposited inside this CDM, immediately it is updating this information back to the actual bank server or not? Yes. Immediately it is synchronizing that. So now immediately, as soon as whenever you are depositing some amount inside your cash deposit machine, once your transaction has been done, immediately it is going to be updating this information to that the bank server. So today this customer has deposited this much of amount over here. So then automatically the balance will be getting updated over here. Immediately you will be getting one SMS notification regarding your amount has been credited successfully or debited successfully. So like that here, okay, like that here, we are going to be implementing this kind of functionalities. This is called as immediate replication. This is called as real-time integration. Real-time integration. Immediately, as soon as whenever I'm going to be inserting the record inside this, immediately the same record has to be inserted into the server also here. Then how can we do this? Now tell me what is your approach in this case. In this case, what needs to be done? As soon as whenever a record has been getting created inside my client, immediately I would like to invoke a trigger. Okay, I would like to invoke a trigger over here. So I'm preparing a trigger inside this. Here I'm preparing a trigger. On the hiring manager object, I would like to create a trigger. This is the trigger which I would like to prepare on my hiring manager object. Let us some hiring manager trigger. So this is the trigger which I would like to prepare on my hiring manager object. When it has to be get filed after inserting, once the record has been inserted inside the client, immediately it has to file. So that I'm indicating the event as after insert. After insert. As soon as whenever a new record has been inserted inside my hiring manager object, immediately my trigger has to be get filed. Okay, immediately my trigger has to be get filed. Now, so once a record has been getting inserted inside my hiring manager object, immediately my trigger has to be get filed over here. The trigger should get filed. After inserting the record, immediately it has to file my trigger here. What my trigger has to do, the trigger has to insert the record into my respective server. Okay, so now in order to access the server, how can we connect to the server? Through this web service here. Through this web service, I need to invoke this one. Now here in this case, what happened? Once the trigger has been filed, inside the trigger we can't write any HTTP callouts. Callouts cannot be allowed inside your trigger. Inside the trigger we can't use any HTTP request, HTTP response. This kind of code we can't use. Then what we can do? For that reason here we are going to be implementing a future method. So here I am going to preparing a future method over here. I am preparing a future method. So in this case, I am preparing a future method. Here I am implementing a future method. So I'm preparing one additional class. Inside this class, I'm going to be writing the code to invoke this future method. I'm preparing a future method. This is the future method class which I'm going to prepare here. This is the future method class which I'm going to prepare. So now as soon as whenever the trigger has been filed, okay, as soon as the trigger has been getting filed, immediately my trigger is going to be invoking this future method. Immediately my trigger is going to be invoking this future method. My trigger should invoke this future method over here. As soon as my trigger has been filed, immediately trigger has to invoke this future method. In this future method, we have to write the code. Okay, in this future method, we have to write this code. So what needs to be done? First of all, we have to invoke that. Okay, we have to invoke this particular web service authorization server in order to get the actual access token. We need to write this code in order to get the access token over here. Now, so now first of all, what needs to be done? We need to get the access token over here. We need to get the access token. Now, I would like to collect the access token over here first. Get access token. First of all, we have to collect the access token over here. In order to access that access token, what needs to be done? First of all, we are going to be invoking that particular authorization server. We have to connect to the authorization server. By connecting to the authorization server, we can able to collect that access token. So for that reason, here I am going to be invoking this. I am going to be invoking a request here. I'm invoking a request. This is the request to get the access token. This is the request to get the access token, and after that, I'm getting the response back. Now, I'm getting this access token. This is the response. Response plus access token. So we are collecting the access token over here. We are getting the response. Along with the response, we are going to be collecting the access token. Once the access token has been getting collected, then we can able to invoke the actual resource over here. Now, here we are going to be invoking the actual web service. So now inside the future method, we are going to be writing the code, okay, in order to get the access token. Once the access token has been getting received, okay, once access token has been getting received, then we are going to be invoking this service. For that one, we are going to be preparing another method. I'm preparing another method over here. Here inside this, I'm going to be invoking that service. Invoke the service. Invoke that web service in order to collect that actual response. That means what? We need to insert this record over here. Once access token has been getting collected, then we are going to be making the actual request. Then we are going to be making a request to that actual resource server in order to insert the record. We are making a request. We are making a request along with that access token. Access token plus input. Whatever the inputs are required to create that request, to create that record, all this information I'm passing over here. Once the request has been getting initiated, then you will be getting the response back. Then you will be getting the response back as a response. Now, you will get the response. You will be getting the response along with the result. Whatever the confirmation is available, that confirmation we can able to collect. This is the way we are going to be implementing this functionality. Whenever if you want to use this future callouts, this is the process we have to follow. A lengthy mechanism, a bit lengthy mechanism over here. Now, got the point over here? This is the way. Whenever if you want to invoke the future callouts, okay, whenever if you want to invoke the future callout, then this is the process we have to follow. A bit lengthy mechanism over here. Now, in this case, what happened? Let me explain the overall process now. For example, I'm having my own provider at the server. In this server, there is an object called as hiring manager object, which is having some set of fields. I want to insert some records inside my hiring manager object. Now, in this case, what needs to be done? For that one, directly we can't connect to this hiring manager object directly. For that one, now the server has prepared a web service also. They have prepared one web service, which is a post method. Okay, which is a post method. That means it is collecting the input values. Based on the input values, it is creating a new record inside this. It's not getting the data. We are not getting the data. We are inserting the data inside that. Okay, we are inserting the records inside this. So this is a web service which is a post method. Okay, which is a post method of web service. Let me give the plot point also. There is a web service with a post method. There is a web service with a post method. There is a post method of web service. There is a web service with a post method. It's not get method, it's a post method. That means we have to post some input values. We have to pass some input values. So now here in this case, we are having a server or we are having a provider. We are having a server or provider. So now here in this case, now inside this provider, they're having a web service which will be expecting some input values. What kind of values? One name value which is of type string, second one location value which is of type string, the third one is a phone parameter which is of type string. So there is a web service which they have implemented. Okay, there is a web service which they have implemented inside this particular server. Now, what this web service will do, this web service is going to be collecting the input values from the client side. Based on that input values, it is going to be inserting the records inside my hiring manager object here. So when coming to that, the web service is going to be collecting the input values from the client, and then it will be collecting those input values. Based on that input values, it is creating a new record inside my hiring manager object. Once a record has been created successfully, it will be returning that ID back so that they will be getting the confirmation back over here. Now in this case, this resource directly we can't access. It is a protected resource. Okay, this is a protected resource which has been implemented by that organization. So at that time, they have introduced an authorization server. There is an authorization server is available. Through this authorization server only we can able to invoke this web service by using OAuth 2.0 authentication over here. This can be implemented with the help of OAuth 2.0 authentication only. Directly we can't invoke this web server over here. Now in this case we have to use the OAuth 2.0 authentication. So by using this OAuth 2.0 authentication only, we can able to connect to this particular actual protected resource, nothing but protected web service, and we can able to pass the required input parameters, and then we can able to create the record inside this. Then when you want to create this record, now I'm having a client. I'm having a consumer or I'm having a client. Now in this service consumer or the client, I'm having a hiring manager object. So as soon as whenever I'm creating a new record inside my hiring manager object, immediately I would like to copy this record information into the server. That means client to server, immediately I would like to copy this information. Like for example, whenever I'm depositing some money into my cash deposit machine, immediately it is reflecting into my bank server, so that your bank server is going to be updating this information and it is going to sending the response back to me in the form of an SMS notification or email notification like, dear customer, your account has been credited successfully. This is how. Or else, for example, assume that this is my branch. Okay, this is my SR Nagar branch over here. As soon as whenever I'm depositing the money inside my SR Nagar branch, then immediately it is going to be updating into the centralized database over here. There is a centralized database. Because what happened here, we can deposit the money in the SR Nagar branch, and you can withdraw the money from any other branch also. Any other branch also. So that means what? For example, I'm having a bank account which is a savings account from SBI, which is my hometown branch. So today, my father has deposited some money into my bank account in my hometown. Immediately have made a call. I just now have deposited the money, so you can withdraw the money. Immediately, in the next second, I can able to withdraw the money from Hyderabad also. He has deposited the money in that Guntur district, or it may be in Vijayawada, it may be Vizag, it may be somewhere, it may be any other state also. Immediately, then I can withdraw the money from a different location as well here. How they are going to be synchronizing? As soon as whenever I'm updating the data inside my branch, then immediately it is updating to the centralized database also. From there, everybody can able to access. From any location, we can able to access this information. Now, like that here, we can able to synchronize the information from one branch to another branch also. Client to server, we can able to keep on, because synchronize the data immediately, nothing but the real-time integration. Real time, on the spot, immediately, I would like to synchronize the data from one application to another application, one organization to another organization, from client to server immediately over here. So in this case, how can we implement this functionality? Now let's see practically over here. Now, let's take this a small use case over here. Take this use case and how to implement PC. So let me take up that use case. Now, configure an integration process to synchronize the hiring manager records from one organization to another organization by using OAuth authorization. OAuth authorization, username password flow. Username password flow. Okay. So now here I would like to have these organizations here. Two organizations I would like to use. So already, okay, we have implemented some functionality. Okay, already we have implemented some functionalities, okay, in the previous use case. In the previous use case, we have implemented. We have used two organizations over there. Okay, we have used two organizations. So one is the provider, second one is the consumer. So now we are using this client and we are using this server. Two organizations. Now, in this case here, I'm using these two organizations. So we are having that client and we are having the server. So first of all, let me log in into that provider, let me log in into the client. Now, so now I'm logging into the client over here. Client is nothing but what? Okay, client is nothing but training that batch 3.1@cas.com. So this is the client. So this is the client in which I have logged into that. Now I would like to log in into my server also, nothing but provider also. My provider is what? My provider is nothing but 3.2. Now I'm using a different browser. Firefox browser I'm using to log in into my provider. So I'm logging into my Firefox browser. Okay, to log in into my server. Go to that login.salesforce.com. I'm logging into this. Now, so this is the server. So now here I'm having this server, I'm having the client. This is the client. So this is the client which is in some Chrome browser. In the Chrome browser, I'm having that client over here, and in the Firefox browser, I'm having the server. This is the server, which is in Firefox browser. Now, so what is my use case over here? In the server side, I'm having the hiring manager object here. In this hiring manager object, I'm going to be having some set of fields. Okay, I would like to have some set of fields inside my hiring manager object over here. Now I'm creating an object with the name hiring manager. So let me create an object over here. I'm creating an object, create objects, hiring manager. New custom object. I'm creating the object with the name hiring manager. I'm giving that plural label like as hiring managers. Okay, hiring managers. I'm indicating that allow reports, allow activities, track field history, allow in chat groups. I want the tab wizard also for my object here. Now click on save. Now I'm selecting the tab style. Tab style I'm selecting like as some gears symbol. Click on next. Make the tab to be get visible for all the profile users. Make this tab to be visible in all the applications over here. Now, so now my hiring manager object is ready, which is having the name hiring manager _ C. In that one, I would like to have some fields. By default, 5 fields are available: ID field, name field, owner, created by, and the last modified by. These are the 5 fields are available by default inside my hiring manager object here. Now I'm creating some additional fields. Now click on new button. Now create that field. So what are the fields that you want? I want that name field, it is already available. Location I want to create, phone I want to create, and then I would like to create that email ID also. 3 fields I would like to create additional. Let me create that email field first, email ID field. Click on next. Email ID. Email ID. I'm making it as required. Now click on next. Click on next. Make it save in because I want to create few more fields. I'm creating the location field right now. Okay, location, pick list. Click on next button. I'm indicating this location. I'm creating this location field. In this location field, I'm populating some set of values. Like as Hyderabad, Bangalore, Chennai, Pune, Mumbai, Noida, Delhi, Kochi. These are the various locations. I want to populate these locations by arranging in the alphabetical order by default. Now click on next button. Make the field to be get visible for all the profile users. Click on next. Make it save in. I want to create one more because contact number field I would like to create. So that is of type phone. Go to the next. I'm indicating this contact number field. I'm making this contact number field as mandatory. Go to the next. Go to the next. Make it save. So all the fields are ready with me here. Okay, all the fields are ready with me here. We have created 3 fields: contact number, email ID, location. These are the 3 fields. Now my hiring manager object is ready. So let's go to that new button so we can see the fields. Now let me arrange these fields in the required order. Let me go to the editing that layout. I'm going to be arranging this section. I'm placing the fields like this: hiring manager name in that location, and then location field, and then email ID field, and the contact number field. Owner field should be get visible over here. Now system information section to be get visible in both the layouts. And then I don't want activities, activity history, nothing. I don't want all these options here. Simply I'm placing these fields: hiring manager name, location, email ID, contact number. Or else contact number here, email ID field will be here. And then I'm placing the owner field in this location. Now click on save. So these other fields are available inside my hiring manager object. These other fields are available inside my hiring manager object. Okay, now this is my provider. In this provider, I'm having this hiring manager object. Now I want to insert the records into my hiring manager object, but directly you can't insert. Okay, directly you can't insert this particular records inside this object. For that one, I would like to prepare a web service which will be consuming the records, which is collecting the data from the external systems, and then based on the data, it is going to be inserting the record inside my object. That means what? I want to create a web service which will be having the post method, which is having post method. Now tell me how to implement this one. You know already, these are not new. We have discussed all the methods: HTTP get method, post method, patch method, delete method. All these 5 methods we have discussed. Get method also we have discussed with some practical examples. Put method also, and then post method also, patch method also, delete method also, everything we have discussed. Now I want a post method. I want to prepare a web service, okay, inside my provider, because inside my provider, so whatever the hiring manager object is available, directly we can't interact with my hiring manager object here. So if you want to interact with my hiring manager object, compulsorily we have to connect to my web service. Through the web service only we can able to connect it. So now in this case, what happened? Now we need that, okay, we need to prepare one web service over here. Then how to prepare this web service? Now let me show you practically in this case. Here, I would like to prepare a web service which is of type post method. Okay, which is of type post method. I want to create a web service over here. Then how can we create a web service which is of type post method? Now let me show you practically in this case. Now I would like to collect these values. What values? Name value, and the location value, and the contact number, and the email ID value. I want to collect all these 4 values, and based on that, I would like to insert the record inside my hiring manager object over here, and then it has to return that hiring manager ID. Then how can we implement? Now let me show you practically. Let me create a web service here. Inside my developer console, I'm creating a web service. Now I'm creating a web service. I'm creating an Apex class. I'm preparing a web service over here. Hiring manager handler service. Hiring manager handler service. I'm going to be implementing this. I'm making this class as a global class. Global. I'm giving the resource name @ REST resource. @REST resource. I'm indicating URL mapping equals to. I'm indicating / hiring manager service. I'm preparing this hiring manager service. So this is the resource name that I'm providing for my RESTful web service. I'm preparing the method here, which is of type @HTTP post. So now I'm preparing this method here. Global static string. It has to return that ID value over here. It has to return that ID value over here. Now, in this case, public, so the global static string, I'm going to be indicating this information. Okay, string. Now insert hiring manager record. Insert hiring manager record. So in this case, what I'm going to do, I would like to pass this value over here. Okay, I'm going to be passing this fields. In order to insert the hiring manager record, what are all the fields are required? We need some values. HR name field will be. Then we need the HR phone number. Phone number also required to create the record. And then string HR email. That means email field is also required. And then string HR city. These are the 4 fields are required here. So that I'm preparing a web service, okay, with the name hiring manager service, which will be having a method called as the insert hiring manager record, which is a post method, which is going to posting the record, inserting the record inside your hiring manager object. So in order to insert the record, we have to pass some values, right? So that this web service will be receiving this 4 values. Once these 4 values have been getting received, then we are going to be creating the object of the hiring manager class, and I will insert the record inside this. My hiring manager object class name is hiring manager underscore underscore C some HR record equals to new hiring manager. I'm creating the object of this class. Okay, I'm creating the object of this class, and then I will like to pass the values. Now I'm in HR record dot name equals to HR. So whatever the parameters we have supplied to my web service, it will collect these values, it is passing to the respective fields over here. HR record dot contact number equals to HR phone. HR record dot email ID. HR email. HR record dot location equals to HR city. So I'm going to be collecting these 4 input parameters. What are the input parameters we have supplied to my web service? I'm collecting these 4 input parameters. Based on that, I'm going to be inserting the record. Insert HR record. Once the record has been getting inserted, I want to return. Click as HR record dot ID. Whatever the ID has been generated, that ID I would like to return. I'm going to return that. So this is the web service we have prepared, but this is not the get, because in the last session I showed you that get method implementation, but here I'm showing that post method. So whenever I'm going to be inserting one record inside my client, whenever I'm inserting the record inside my service consumer, immediately it has to insert the same record into the service provider also. From the client to server, I'm going to be passing the data. I'm synchronizing. Here I'm inserting the record directly. As soon as whenever I'm inserting the record, immediately it has to sync this data to my server here. Like whenever I'm depositing some money inside my cash deposit machine, immediately it is updating this information into my bank server over here. So that once the bank server has been updated, then you will be getting that confirmation, okay, by using SMS, by using email ID regarding your money has been credited successfully or debited successfully over there. So in this case here, we are going to be interacting with this. Now, like the similar way here, we are going with that. Now my provider is ready. Okay, right now my provider is ready. Then how can we access this web service? This web service can be accessible by using the resource URL. What is the URL here? Hiring manager service. But we need to supply 4 parameters: HR name parameter, HR phone, HR email, HR city. So we have to invoke this web service. Now whenever I'm passing this value inside my web service, the web service is going to be creating the record inside my hiring manager object. It will return the record, it will return the ID back to me. This is the implementation. Now I'm done with the provider side over here. Okay, I'm done with that provider side. Now I would like to invoke this web service from my client. How can we invoke that? We need to go with the authorization server. So what we need to do in the provider side, we have to create a connected app, which is going to be generating the client ID, client secret. And then we need to pass the user ID, password to this particular client. Along with that, this particular URL, along with the input parameters over here. Now, in this case here, I'm indicating this information. Inputs required. Inputs required from provider. What are all the inputs are required from the provider side right now? Now let me explain. The first one is we need that client ID. Client ID. That means this is also called as consumer key. Consumer key. Second one, client secret. It is also called as consumer secret. And the third one, we need that username. Fourth one, we need the password. And the fifth one, we need the resource URL. Nothing but resource endpoint URL. Okay, resource endpoint URL. And then sixth, 5.1. Okay, method type. Method type. If it is a post or get or what? If it is a post, then what are the input parameters? Input parameters. If it is a post. If it is a post method, what input parameters are required here? We should be happy. So here in my case, I need that 4 input parameters over here. What are those? Okay, HR name, HR city, HR phone, HR email. These are the 4 input parameters we need to supply to my web service over here. Now, the method type is what? Post. This is the post method here. These are the inputs are required from the provider side to my client. Based on that, we can able to collect that access token. Based on the access token, we can able to implement that functionality here. These are all the inputs are required from the provider side. Now, in this case, first of all, what we did, we are ready with the provider here. We are ready with the provider. Now, provider is ready. They're having an object. They're having the web service. And then they have created a connected app and they have implemented that, prepared that client ID, client secret, username, password, everything. Because the same user, the same organizations we have used for the previous example, also for the OAuth authorization. But now we are invoking a different web service with a different manner. There we have connected by using the authorization server directly, but now here we are going to be connecting with the help of triggers. Okay, with the help of triggers, we are going to be implementing over here. Through trigger, we are going to be invoking this web service. Now, so now here in this case, here, my provider is ready. They have provided that URL also here. What is the resource URL? Resource URL is this is the resource URL. Now, I'm indicating this resource URL. Resource URL. It is having the https ep17.salesforce.com/services/apex rest. You will be having that service that is hiding in the service. Now, input parameters. 4 parameters are required, like as HR name, HR email, and the HR phone, and the HR city. These are the 4 input values we need to supply to this particular procedure over here, which is a post method. Method type is post. Method type is post. Because here, whenever we are going to be implementing the web services, also we have implemented. Like when you go to the web services, during that post methods, during the post method here. So see, during the post method, whenever we are going to be inserting the records, we have to pass the values. We have to supply the input values, in the form of request body. That request body is nothing but in the form of JSON format here. So whenever we are going to be having a web service which is receiving some input parameters, upon calling this particular web service, we have to pass the input values in the form of this response because JSON format. That already we did, nothing different. But now we are going to be invoking that here. Previously, we have tested by using that workbench, but now we are going to be doing the real-time testing over here. Through by using a different organization, through programmatically we are testing this one. We have to pass the values in the form of this request body over here. Then how can we do that? Now let me show you practically. So I'm having a web service is available which is in my provider, so which is going to be collecting some input values, and then we are going to be invoking this web service. We need to pass the values. It has to insert the record inside my hiring manager object. Then how can we implement the client side? Now let's see practically. Now, as part of client, what we need to do, so we are having the hiring manager object. Now, when you want to insert this record, whenever I'm inserting the record inside my hiring manager object inside my client, immediately it has to insert the record into my provider also. That means it has to sync the data. How, when the record has been getting inserted inside my hiring manager object, immediately I would like to fire the trigger. Okay, I would like to fire the trigger. So now in this trigger, I would like to collect the HR record which I have created. We need to pass this record to the future method. Why? Because in order to connect to this web service, we need to write some code. We have to get the access token. That means by connecting to the authorization server, and we have to invoke this web service also. But this invoking the web service code, this is called as callout. Now this callouts we can't write inside the trigger directly, because callouts are external. That means outside of the organization, but the trigger is within the organization. So in this case here, we are not going to be executing this web services directly within the trigger. We are going to be preparing a future method. So in this future method, we are writing the actual code to connect to the authorization server, okay, to get the access token and to invoke that service, okay, in order to insert the record inside this provider by passing the required input parameters along with the access token. This future method we are going to be invoking from my trigger itself. So we have to create the trigger, we have to prepare the future method, we have to invoke it here. This is the way we have to do. Now in this case, how to implement this future method? Now let me show you practically first, and then we'll see how to invoke this code from the trigger itself. I would like to show you. Now when you come to that client side, so now let me prepare that future method first. I'm going to the client, I'm preparing a future method. I'm preparing this method over here, class over here. I'm preparing a class. I'm implementing a new class in order to insert the record over here. Now, so now here I'm implementing this functionality. Hiring manager record, hiring manager trigger handler, hiring manager trigger handler, hiring manager trigger handler. Now click on OK. I'm creating a method. Okay, this is a class. I'm preparing a method. Public static void get access token. Get access token. I want to return that access token over here. For that one, I'm using the string parameter. I'm returning the string. So now this method is going to be collecting, it is going to be interacting with the authorization server, and it is going to be collecting that access token. That access token it has to return. Then how can we collect this access token? We know, okay, already we have implemented this previous code. Previously, in the previous example, we did the same implementation. Let me collect that same code over there. Now, I'm opening that class. Now, here we did the implementation here, like as get access token. This is a method. I'm placing this same. I'm placing this code inside this. Now, which is going to be collecting the access token. Now, I prepared the method which is used to collect the access token. So now, because we are going to be invoking to that third-party server that is called as authorization server over here, and then we are going to be passing that client ID, client secret, username, and the password. Based on that, we need to collect the access token here. That is the first step. So in this case, what needs to be done as part of future method? First of all, we have to get the access token by making a request to the authorization server and get the access token value. Once the access token is available, then we have to invoke the actual resource. Then, in this case, next we can able to invoke the resource over here. Public static. Here in this case, what happened? I need to write that future method over here. Okay, I would like to write a future method. Public static void sync hiring manager records. We can sync the hiring manager records to provider. Sync hiring manager record to the provider. I'm preparing this method. I'm preparing this future method. This is the future method. How can we implement this is the future method? This is future. Now, in this future method, I would like to write that callout. Directly callout cannot be accessible inside the future method, so that we have to give a parameter called as callout equals to true. So whenever we are going to be invoking the callouts, nothing but connecting to the third-party web services from your future method, we have to indicate a parameter at the future callout equals to true. That means please allow the callouts, please allow me to invoke some third-party web services inside this future method. Okay, inside this future method, I'm going to be collecting this information. Now, so now here in this case here, how can we do this one? Whenever we are going to preparing this method has to be get collecting the data. Nothing but what data? HR record information. Each and every HR record, whatever the HR record you have prepared, that HR record I need to pass to the future method. The future method is going to be inserting the record into the third-party web service over here. Now, in this case here, let me prepare the trigger over here. Okay, let me prepare the trigger. Now, so now for example, let me explain the previous concept. So this is the web service which we have prepared. If you want to pass some parameters to this web service, how we are passing that? We are passing like this. We are passing in the form of what? JSON format. Okay, in the form of JSON format, we are passing the request here. Whatever the input parameters are required, those input parameters we are passing to my web service in the form of the JSON format. Like the similar way here also. Okay, like the similar way here also, we need to pass these values in the form of JSON format over here. How to pass here? Whatever the record you have inserted. That means whatever the hiring manager record you have inserted, collect this hiring manager record name, location value, and the phone value, email ID value. Collect all these 4 values, prepare in the form of a JSON format, pass to the future method. Future method will collect these 4 values. It is passing to the actual resource server, okay, by using this access token. Now, let me prepare the trigger over here on this one. Let me prepare the trigger. Here I'm preparing a trigger. New Apex trigger. Hiring manager sync trigger. Hiring manager sync trigger. Now I'm going to be creating that trigger on the hiring manager object. I'm creating the trigger on that hiring manager object. Now this trigger has to be get fired. When the trigger has to be get fired here, I already implemented. Now trigger will be firing on after insert. Once the record has been inserted inside my client, immediately the same data has to be copied into my server also over here. For that one, I'm preparing that after insert. Once the record has been inserted successfully, after inserting the record, I would like to collect this record information. I want to pass to my future method. Future method will be collecting the access token. Based on that, it will be inserting the record. Now, as a step 2, insert the trigger, we have to specify the trigger context. Trigger dot is after and trigger dot is insert. Is insert. That means after insert of that record inside my hiring manager object. So once the record has been inserted successfully inside my hiring manager object, then immediately I would like to collect the record. What are the records we are collecting? Okay, what are the records we are collecting? What are the records you have inserted into your hiring manager object? Those records are available inside the which context variable? Inside the trigger.new. Inside the trigger.new, the records are available. Then get each and every hiring manager record. each and every hiring manager __ C some HR. Okay, HR. So collect each and every HR record which I have inserted right now. It may be one record, it may be multiple record also. Collect each and every record over here. Once the record has been getting collected, then this record information I need to pass to my future method over here. Okay, I need to pass to my future method. This is the future method. To this future method, I need to pass this HR record. Can I pass this record directly to my future method? No, because future method does not accept that a subject type of records. We need to convert this HR record into our string type. That string record information I need to pass to my future method. Because you know the concept of future methods. Future method does not support that a subject type of parameters. Only string type of parameters it is supporting. Primitive type of parameters, arrays of primitive, collection of primitive, it will be supporting over here, but it won't support any subject type of parameters. So whatever the record you are going to pass to my future method, that future method will be receiving this input parameter. But this record we need to pass in the form of request body. Request body should be in the form of like a JSON format. So then how to prepare this JSON format through program? For that one, we are using the help of a class called as JSON generator class. Salesforce has given a class called as a JSON generator, which is used to prepare the JSON format through programming. As of now, we are collecting the JSON format, we are parsing that, we know. But now what I want to do, I want to do it reverse. I want to prepare the JSON format of content. For that one, we are going to be using this system.json generator class. System.json generator. There is a class is available system.json generator. I'm indicating HR.json equals to, I would like to use system.json.create generator. Previously we have used create parser. Now I'm using create generator. Okay, create generator of. Now here we can able to write that content over here. Now, in order to prepare the JSON format, we are going to be using this content. So now, whenever we are going to be invoking this particular web service, okay, upon invoking that particular web service, we need to pass the response over here. For example, this is the web service. How can we invoke this web service? By passing the value for the HR name, HR phone, HR email ID, HR city. How can we pass the values over here? Now let me explain. Now, when coming to that response, we should be in the form of like this. We have to pass. Request the body should be in the form of like this. Because we have to specify a name. We can able to pass the value. HR city. We have to pass the value. HR phone. We have to pass the value. And the HR email. We have to pass the value. This is the format we have to pass the input values here. We have to pass input values to my web service in the form of this particular JSON object format. So we have to prepare that. First of all, we have to write this particular start object. This is nothing but starting of the object over here. So in this case, we have to prepare each and every functionality. Then we have to add one parameter over here. This is the second parameter, third parameter, fourth parameter, and then we have to use that ending of that basis. Nothing but ending of the object. So in this case, in order to prepare this particular, the starting of that object, we have to use a separate method called as write start object. Now, in this case, here I'm using this. Now HR JSON, HR JSON dot write start object. Write start object. Whenever I'm going to be using this write start object, then it is going to be writing this braces over here. In order to write that, only that braces here. Now, if I'm using this method is going to be adding this braces up to this part is okay, fine. This is the part here. This part has been written right now. This is what the input we are expecting. So we have written this one here. Okay. Now JSON dot nothing but we are creating the generation JSON. In that JSON we are writing write start object. That means starting object means what? Braces, starting braces it has written. Now inside that what we need to do next? We need to write one parameter with some value over here. What is the parameter? How to write? Now let me show you over here. In this case, now HR JSON JSON dot write dot write a string field value. Write a string field. Here we can specify there is a field, there is a method called as write a string field. That means I'm going to be writing one string field value, nothing but string value here. What is that string name, HR name, and some value. So this is the key, this is the value. We have to specify here. This is the key, this is the value here. We can specify. Now write a string field. What is that field name over here? Now that we are indicating HR name. I'm indicating HR name. Okay, HR name. Where is this HR name is available inside my HR object dot name. That means whatever the hiring manager name that you have collected, which you have inserted right now, that record I'm collecting, that record's name value I'm storing inside the parameter. Like the similar HR JSON dot write string field. The second field is I'm going to pass it. Now HR city. Which value we need to pass? HR dot location value. I'm passing that location. HR dot JSON dot write string field. I'm going to pass in that field name. What is the field name? HR email. The value is available where email ID. And then HR JSON dot write string field. Here I'm going to passing the location. Sorry, the next one is what? Email ID and the contact number. HR phone. I'm passing the value from HR dot contact number. So I'm passing these values. Once you're specifying, that means here now it is going to be adding this. If I'm writing this HR name, it will be writing this parameter over here. And then if I'm writing this HR city, it is going to be adding that HR city value. And the third one, HR email. Okay, it is adding that HR email ID value. And then we are having the HR phone. That means it will be adding that HR phone. Then after that, what we need to specify? We need to give the closing braces. Then how can we specify? For that one here, I'm going to be indicating this. HR JSON dot write end object here. Okay, ending of the object here. We can write end object. So it is going to be writing this information that is going to be writing this end of the object here. Now this is the JSON format of content which you have prepared by using this particular JSON generator class. JSON generator class is used to prepare the JSON format of content through programmatically. Through programmatically, we can able to prepare the JSON format with the help of this JSON generator class, so that we can able to write that starting object over here. Starting of the braces. This is nothing but object starting. So that for that one, I'm using the method write start object here. And then inside that we are preparing some fields, nothing but the key and the value. So that this key and the value to write that this is the string type. So that I'm using this write a string field. What is the field name? Nothing but the key name. Key name is HR name. What is the value you would like to pass in my HR record? Whatever the HR record that I've inserted right now, that HR record values I'm collecting here, I'm passing inside my fields over here. Name value I'm passing in the HR name. Okay, key, and then this is the location value I'm passing in the HR city, email ID in the email field, contact number in the contact field. But here, why I'm giving HR name, HR city, HR email like that? Why? Because is when coming to my external web service, in my external web service, okay, they have passed the parameters in the same parameters. The HR name, HR city, HR phone, HR email. Like for example, when you verify this one here, we are having the parameters. In this provider, we are having the web service. In this web service, whatever the parameter names are available, in the same name, we need to pass the values over here inside this. We are passing this. And then these values we need to supply. Once a record is ready, nothing but once the object is ready, input is ready, then we need to pass to my trigger handler, nothing but to my method, which is available inside my handler class. So I would like to invoke this future method over here. So now here I'm indicating this. So now HR manager trigger handler dot, I'm going to be having this method called as that is sync HR records to the. Here we need to pass this information. Okay, here we need to pass this information. So now how to pass this information? This entire string, nothing but this is a string format of content I need to pass. Okay, the string format of content I would like to pass to this particular method over here in the form of like a string, so that here it should be receivable. String HR record details. HR record details here. Now here I'm indicating this information. So now I need to pass whatever the JSON format of content that we have prepared. This JSON format of content I would like to pass to my respective method over here. How to pass in this case? HR JSON dot. Okay, HR JSON dot. Okay, write as string. So the get as a string. Get as a string. That means here in this case, what happened? So now, whatever the string parameter, nothing but whatever the JSON format prepared, this JSON format we need to convert into the string format by using the get as a string. Now this string parameter value I'm passing to my method sync hiring when the records to the provider. Now, so now here we have prepared this method dynamically at runtime over here. Now, so now this method is available over here. Now, for this method, I'm going to pass in this HR record. Whatever the HR record we have created just now, collect that HR record information, and then based on that HR record details, prepare the JSON format. JSON format of content I'm going to be converting into the string. The string format of content I'm passing to my future. Now this future method is going to be having the actual code in order to collect that access token, and it is going to be invoking that actual service to pass this data over here. Then how can we write this code? Now let me explain practically in this case here. Now, in this case, I'm verifying this. If it is passing nothing but the trigger is passing my, okay, now from the trigger I'm going to be invoking from the trigger I'm invoking this the future method here. Invoke the future method and pass the hiring manager record. Here I'm indicating that create the JSON format of HR record. Now, I'm going to be indicating this. I'm verifying this here. If the HR record details is not null, if it is not null, and if it is not empty, if it is not empty, if the hiring manager record details are not null and then not empty, in this case, what needs to be done? I need to collect. That means HR record is available. Then only we can insert, right? So for that one, I'm going to be collecting that access token. Now here I'm going to be collecting that access token inside this. Here I'm preparing that string access token. I'm simply defining the string access token here. Here I'm storing this. Access token equals to, I'm invoking this method get access token. Now here I'm preparing that command. Get the access token to invoke the web service. Once the access token value is ready, okay, once the access token value is ready, then we are going to be connecting to that actual resources server. Right, that code to invoke the web service from resources server. From the resource server, we can able to invoke that actual web service over here. How can we invoke that web service? We need that endpoint URL, right? Yes. Now I'm preparing string. Now endpoint URL. Resource endpoint. What is that endpoint URL of this particular resource? Now let's see collect over here. This is the resource name. Now, what is the endpoint URL over here? We have prepared this. This is the endpoint URL. Now, this is the endpoint URL. So now once the endpoint URL is ready, then we need to pass the parameters over here. We need to pass the parameters. So now how can we specify this information? Now let's see practically in this case. Now, HTTP, now HR HTTP equals to new HTTP request, HTTP class. HTTP request, HR request equals to new HTTP request. Now, in this case, HR request dot, we have to specify set endpoint. What is the endpoint URL? This is the endpoint URL. This is the endpoint URL to which I would like to invoke this web service. Next, HR request dot set body. What is the body parameter? This is the information which we have collected from the trigger. So now which is in the form of JSON. So now here I am going to pass this JSON format of response which we have collected from the trigger. Next, what is the method type? This is the method I am invoking. The method type is what? Post method. So that I am indicating this. HR request set method. Now this method is of type post. Now this method is of type post. Next, HR request. Now I'm indicating set header. Set header. Here we can specify whenever we are going to be indicating this, whenever you are passing the information to this web service, I'm supplying some input. In which format you are supplying the input? In the form of HTML, in the form of a normal like as the XML, in the form of JSON. We have to indicate. I'm indicating this one with the help of content type. Content type. I'm indicating with the help of a key called as content type. This content type will be in the form of application / JSON. That means whatever the information I'm supplying, that information I'm going to passing to you in the form of a JSON format. I'm passing this information, input parameters to you in the form of JSON. So now here I'm indicating that the content type, the set header, content type, comma, JSON, application / JSON. And then HR request dot set header. So whenever we are going to validating my data, please use this authorization. I'm using this authorization over. What is that authorization? OAuth authorization. So I'm indicating OAuth. Okay. Plus, what is that access token? Access token is available. So now this access token I'm storing inside the variable over here. I'm getting the access token. Once access token is available, then we can able to place inside this, and then invoke that request over here. And then invoke that request over here. So I'm indicating this. HTTP response, HR response equals to new HTTP response. I'm going to be initiating this request over here. HR response equals to HR HTTP dot set. What is the request over here? HR request. What are the requests I have prepared? I'm going to send in the request to. And then I would like to show this response. System.debug. Okay, system.debug. Now HR record ID is, I would like to get that ID. Now HR response dot get body. This is the piece of code here. Now, this is the piece of code which we have implemented right now. Okay, for this implementation. As part of this implementation, what we need to do, we need to create a trigger. What the trigger will do, trigger will be getting firing after inserting the record. Once the record has been inserted successfully, immediately the trigger will fire. Trigger is going to be collecting the newly inserted record information. The record information it is passing to the future, because within the trigger we can't invoke the callouts directly. For that one, we are going to be invoking this trigger with the help of this future method. So I'm having this trigger. Now in this trigger, I'm collecting the HR record information. This record information I'm going to be passing to a future method. How directly the HR record we can't pass to that future method, because future method does not accept any subject type of parameters. Future method will be receiving only the parameters of type primitive or arrays of primitive, or it may be the collection of primitive. But if you want to pass that number of record, then we have to use that serialization process, deserialization process that already showed you during the future methods concept. Now, so now here in this case, what we did, whatever the hiring manager record that we have inserted right now, now that record I'm going to be converting into a JSON format over here by using JSON generator class. I'm preparing an object for starting of the object. I'm going to be writing the key and the value. This is the key and the value, key and the value, key and the value, and the key and the value. What are the 4 parameters are required? For these 4 parameters, I'm supplying the value here. Once the JSON format of request is ready, I'm passing this JSON format of request. I'm passing to my future method. Now the future method is going to be collecting this JSON format of content. It will verify if the content is ready, then it is going to be collecting that access token by invoking the get access token method. Once the access token is ready, then it is invoking that actual resource server resource by using this resource server. This is the actual URL is available for my resource. My resource name is available hiring manager service. I'm invoking this resource over here by passing the required input parameters. In this case, I'm passing the endpoint. I'm passing the set body also. Body means what? We need to pass the input parameters to in the form of request body. That already told you during the web service concept also over here. Whenever, if the web service is expecting, upon inserting the records, we have to supply the values for the records in the form of request body, okay, which should be in the form of JSON format. So I'm ready with the JSON format of content right now. Now the JSON format of content I'm passing to my body method, and the method type is a post I'm inserting. And then whatever the information, whatever the request parameters we're passing, the information I'm passing in the form of application/JSON. So that here JSON format of content I'm passing, content type, whatever the input I'm passing to that web service, that input parameters are in the form of JSON format. And then for that one I'm using the authorization also. The authorization is a OAuth authentication authorization, which is having the access token values also there. So please verify my authorization token, that means access token, and then allow me to invoke that request, and then we can able to get the response over here. This is the way we are going to be using this future callouts. Now let me test that practical implementation over here. Now let's see. Now, so this is my server, which is not having any hiring manager records inside this. No hiring manager records are available inside this. So now let me show you some columns also over here. When you click on go, it will display the records. What names it is displaying? Only hiring manager names. Not only the names, I want to show the remaining columns also. Like I want to show the location of the hiring manager, email ID, and the contact number. But there is no records are available as of now inside my provider. This is my provider organization, which is I'm accessing by using the Firefox browser. Now, let me go to my client, nothing but my consumer. Here I'm creating a hiring manager record right now. I'm creating a hiring manager record. Click on new button. I'm creating a new record. So now let me take anybody's name over here. For example, I'm taking that name called as like as some Vamsi. So I'm indicating the name as some Vamsi Krishna. Vamsi Krishna, contact number I'm giving some value. Location I'm indicating like as some Chennai. Email ID I'm indicating like as some Vamsi@some gmail.com. Vamsi@some gmail.com. Now, as soon as whenever I'm going to be inserting the record, immediately my trigger should file, my trigger should collect this record's information. Based on this record value, it is going to be preparing the JSON format. The JSON format of content, it has to pass to my provider. Provider web service will be receiving this input parameters, and then it is passing to the respective fields. It has to create the record, it has to send the response back. This is the functionality. Now, let's go to this consumer. Here is the consumer. Click on save. Once I click on save, now my record has been created successfully inside my consumer here. In the consumer, record has been created successfully over here. Then whether this record has been created inside my provider or not, I would like to verify that. Now, in this case, let's go to your provider over here. Refresh this user interface. Here also same record is available. Vamsi Krishna, Chennai location, email ID, and the contact number. Nothing but from one organization to another organization, we can able to sync the data. For example, I'm creating one more over here. Now, let me take another person name from our, now some Vaishnavi. Vaishnavi. Location I'm indicating like as from Hyderabad. Contact number I'm giving somewhere. Email ID I'm indicating like as Vaishnavi @ gmail.com. I've given the name like as Vaishnavi @ gmail.com. As soon as once you click on save button, now with the same name, it has to the same details, it has to create the record inside my provider also. Let's go to that, refresh this user interface. Now Vaishnavi record also has been created inside my provider. That means we can able to sync the data from one Salesforce organization to another Salesforce organization also with the help of this future callouts. With the future callouts, OAuth authentication, these are two most important features as part of real-time implementations. This is the concept of integration features in Salesforce. So mainly concentrate on the REST functionality because everybody is expecting REST wherever you go, any integration, always REST integration the people are using. But here we have discussed both. So now sometimes they will raise a question in the entry point of view. So did you simply consume the third-party web services or have you prepared your own web services? We did both because we have prepared our own web services, which is consuming by the third-party people. And then we have implemented that the consuming the third-party web services also. Call in, call out, both we have implemented as part of our course over here. These are the various processes we can able to implement through integrations here. Now, so now this is the way we are going to be using this integration, which is a real-time integration. Okay, this is a real-time integration. Upon creating the record inside the consumer, similarly, immediately the record will be passing into my provider also over here. The facility will be available inside this. These are the concepts of integrations are available. And then one more thing, sometimes here in very few cases, the people will ask about the email integration. So regarding the email integration, I will be placing one video into your Google Drive. You can go through that whenever you have some time. Generally, please concentrate only on REST integration because in the real-time implementations, always we are using REST because REST is very, very lightweight. REST is very, very lightweight, which is purely using JSON format internally. When you go to the mobiles, when you go to the smartphones, when you go to the third-party application, bankings, anything, everywhere the people are using REST implementation because REST is very easy to implement, easy to parse by using the JSON format. JSON format of content is very, very lightweight. That's what here everybody is following that REST implementations over here. That's what when you go to any third-party applications also, the people are purely using REST implementations. Okay, so these are the various scenarios, various implementations we did as part of our REST implementations as part of integration. Okay, now tomorrow I will give you the information of project information and then how to prepare the resume. Also, I will be showing that information to you. Tomorrow morning we'll be having the session so that we can able to complete this integration part and the project sessions as well. And then as part of this one, I'm going to be discussing about that The resume preparation, how to prepare your resume, I will show you that information. Along with that, some project information. I will show you, I will explain one project document to you here, how we have implemented, how to go ahead with the project information. And if you want some additional information regarding like some related to the real-time implementation, I will give 2 more videos. If you want, I will share that information to you. Why? Because is sometimes they will ask you, okay, what kind of methodology that we are following for your project? Because nowadays in the real-time implementations, we are following the agile methodology. We are not using waterfall model. We are using agile methodology development. At that time, they will ask, especially in the agile, we are using a Scrum methodology over here. Especially we are using Scrum model of application development. So in this case, if anybody asks you, what about the Scrum methodology implementations over here? Okay, what about that Scrum methodology of implementations? At that time, if you want to go with that, okay, if you want to go with that Scrum methodology of implementation, I will be giving one video to you. So now what is the process of Scrum, everything I will be giving that video. I'm going to placing that. If you want that, I will share that information, or else no need of that. If you don't want that information, okay, no problem for me. And if you want that, the video also agile methodology process implementation, I will give it that. Generally, nobody will give this process implementations. I will place this information also if you want for your reference.